Hello, my name is Jim. Over the past year, I've seen some people on YouTube talking about being stressed out, approaching burnout, and feeling bad about not achieving all the goals that they wanted to achieve. I've also seen some recent videos that touch on the notion of balancing your creative work versus your other responsibilities. In this video, I will share some ways that I think about productivity and prioritization in particular. The overall model that I will share has helped me to manage stress, avoid burnout, and maintain a healthy, productive balance between my creative work in music as well as my other responsibilities. In the video, I will also share a low pressure way of tracking practice, as well as a practice routine that I went through in 2025, which was a very busy year for me. I'm a drummer and I've been playing for 40 years, playing music. And aside from the practice routine that I share towards the end of the video, the ideas that I'm going to share in this video are broadly applicable beyond music and drumming. The first thing that's been really helpful to me is having an overall framework that I can use to evaluate demands on my time. Here's how I've sort of mentally organized things. So the icon that you see in the middle of the screen, that is me. The number one priority in my life is my family. In particular, that's my wife, my kids, and my dog. The number two priority in my life is my day job. And my day job is important because it feeds my family. The number three priority in my life is music. And music is important because it feeds me. It feeds me spiritually and emotionally, and it helps me to be in a good place to do the things I need to do, like do my day job and take care of my family. As an aside, I'll mention that my job has an overall theme and a purpose. And that is very, very important as well because it helps me to keep going when the things get tough in my day job. Now, underneath each of those high-level areas of relative importance, there are subcategories. As an example, underneath my job, there are various projects. And under each of the projects, there are tasks that I need to do or to-do items. Underneath music, I think about two general categories. The first category is things I need to do for my band that I'm in. And the second thing is everything else. And the band is most important, and things I need to do for the band come first. All right. Now that the framework has been laid out, I want to talk about agile prioritization. The to-do lists that are underneath each of these subcategories that we talked about earlier are dynamic and change over time. I think of these as ranked backlogs. And if that terminology sounds weird or overly technical to you, you could look online, you could look up Agile backlog. And there's this whole area called Agile Development, and that has really informed the way that I sort of think about things. So how does a framework help with stress or feeling bad about oneself? Life inevitably involves change. Murphy's Law, right? I tend to think about a force that's ever present in life called Murphy. And Murphy is always throwing wrenches into things and causing trouble. And I've really worked hard to try and embrace Murphy. When Murphy comes, I feel an affinity to Murphy because I know that I'm living in reality. But changes are sometimes hard to accept because each of us as humans, we form our own ideas about the way things are or the way things should be. And oftentimes things just aren't under our own control, right? So having a framework has been really valuable to me because it allows me to behave according to my long-term priorities, even in situations where some part of me might be feeling difficulty or resistance to change. So as an example, if I had plans to do something on a particular day and I really thought out what I was going to do on that day, and then when the day comes and something comes up and it's in a higher priority category than what I was planning to do, it's easier for me to accept that change because I know that the reason I have to change my plans is for a higher priority reason in my own framework that I've really thought hard about, right? And I'll be less likely to beat myself up about something like that because I know there's a good reason for the change. So with all that laid out, I want to talk about some additional concepts or things to keep in mind. Number one is a quote that I've heard before, and that quote is as follows: "The essence of strategy is deciding what not to do." So you've outlined, you've got some high-level priorities in your life, and you've got things coming at you, you've got, opportunities to do different things, and it's very, very important to evaluate things and decide what you're not going to do. You can't do everything, right? So you have to decide, what am I not going to do? And sometimes those decisions are difficult, but that high-level framework can be helpful in informing you in deciding what not to do. Another key concept is to not accumulate too much work in progress, or WIP. That's a manufacturing term, WIP, and it's used in a lot of places. So if you have too much work in progress, you're working on too many projects, each project, there's another concept called cycle time. The time to complete each project, if they were prioritized evenly, gets longer and longer. You get longer and longer cycle times because you've got too much WIP. And then Murphy starts coming and throwing wrenches into things, and you go back to that project that you hadn't touched a long time ago, or you hadn't touched in a long time, and you find out, things have changed, and the work you did earlier is irrelevant, right? So try not to accumulate too much WIP. You can have a few irons in the fire at the same time, and you can go back and forth. But there's another important quote here, and I heard this from an Agile consultant. And this quote is as follows: "Stop starting things and start finishing things." So that's very, very important. Not too much WIP. Stop starting things and start finishing things. Another very, very important thing are things that are pretty much non-negotiable. And those are sleep, exercise, and a good diet. And there's a notion here that comes from Stephen Covey, the author of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's called production capability, right? So if you want to be productive, you need to also focus on production capability, or sharpening your saw. Abe Lincoln, I think, said, if I had 4 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe, or something like that, right? So you have to take care of yourself. You need to sleep, you need to exercise, and you have to have a good diet. If you don't do those things, like if you're on no sleep and you haven't eaten good, healthy food, when Murphy throws that wrench at you, you're not going to be in a good state to be able to deal with it. So those things, those non-negotiables, are very important. And there's another book I want to plug here called Tiny Habits. I forget the author's name. I'll put it up in an image up in the video. But this book, I got it from, I saw an interview of a musician that I really, really love. And this is a really good book that helps you develop habits based on triggers, So I do strength exercises on Tuesday and Thursday. The first thing I do are the pull-ups downstairs. After I do pull-ups, I walk the dogs, right? And then later in the day, when I'm completing my strength exercises, while I can complete the strength exercises, I make oatmeal. So you come up with these sort of triggers that help you remember what behavior you have to do next, and they help reinforce good habits. So that's another thing. So non-negotiables, right? Now, number 4 is another Stephen Covey concept. Stephen Coffee. I need to get some coffee. It's the notion of big rocks versus sand. Big rocks are important things that you want to get done, and sand are all these little things that are nagging you in your life, right? And you have to think about your priorities, and you have to do first things first. So there's a really good YouTube video with Stephen Covey out there, and he's got these 2 pails, and he's working with doing, like, it's in the 1980s or late 70s, and he's doing a seminar, and he's literally got these rocks and these little pebbles or sand-like stuff. And if you put the sand into the bucket first, and then you try and put the important big rocks in, it doesn't all fit. But if you do the big rocks, you put the big rocks into the empty pail first, then you can dump a lot of that sand around it and it all fits, right? So that's an important concept. You got to do the important things in your framework, those important tasks, and you need to prioritize those first. For me, in my music life, like last year, a big priority in the band was to get our album out. And we started the year and we were still recording songs. I was getting ready to mix. I knew that in order to mix, I wanted to make some acoustic panels, so I had a good environment to mix. It's kind of a sharpening the saw or sharpening the axe type of thing. So I had to prioritize those things, and those were big rocks. Another important concept is breaking big rocks down into small tasks, like a work breakdown structure. If I have a big goal, like get the album out by mid-year or something like that, that could be an overwhelming goal. But a very, very important concept is to break down all the work that you're doing into as small pieces as possible. And this is different from the sand concept. You're breaking the rock down into subcomponents. And if you have those subtasks, and you have those subtasks in these sort of mental backlogs, they're little things, and you're just moving little tasks around. You say, the next step in the mix that I'm working on is to do the static mix, right? And it's a little step. It's just one of maybe 25 or 30 steps that are part of mixing a particular song. So you've got 7 songs, I'm only working on the first song, and we've recorded all the things, and now I'm going to do the static mix. And you break it down into all these little steps, and it's easier to accomplish, and you keep chipping away at those little tasks, and eventually the song is mixed, right? And eventually the album is done. So breaking work down is very important. Now, I promised at the beginning of the video that I was going to share a way of tracking practice and a practice routine. So an example of a sand activity that I did last year is I have a long-term goal of getting back into playing jazz. And I'm not working on that. That's not my focus right now. It's just a long-term goal far off into the future. But as part of playing jazz, I want to get back into my traditional grip. So playing the traditional grip is something that's commonly done in jazz, and it's kind of a nice to have thing in my life that I want to be able to play in traditional grip or to revive it. I spent a lot of time earlier in my life working on it. So I saw a video from Rick Dior, great drummer out there. He's amazing, absolutely amazing. And he mentioned that when you work on your traditional grip, it reinforces your matched grip. So your matched grip and your traditional grip, as you work on them, they reinforce one another. They keep your hands strong. So I saw that video and I said, I'm going to make a little practice routine. And there was this other video that I had seen that came from Phil Maturano. And he was talking about this practice tracking method that I'm going to show you now. So before I show you the new tracking method, I just want to show you here on the right. This is the last entries that I had for when I was doing stick control. And if you look at this, you can see I capture the date for each time I practiced, and I capture the tempos, right? So here's how I would do it if I was doing stick control or something that I was really focused on. And the disadvantage of this psychologically is if you miss a day, you have to write it down and you feel bad about yourself because you say, look, there's a gap here and I missed a day. And one thing that's pretty funny that I just noticed when I was doing this is this was the changeover from 2024 to 2025. And you can see that I was capturing the year wrong in the first few entries here. So here is the tracking method that I wanted to show. And the main idea is you draw some circles. It's good if you have a circle template, unlike what I had. And then there's a system of tick marks. And as you do practice sessions, you fill in the tick marks, and it is a positive thing psychologically because you're drawing these beautiful suns. And here I used the short tick mark to represent 3 minutes. And then when you get to the fifth one, you put in a long stripe, which represents 15 minutes. So that's the main idea. You're not as much focused on the date, and you're more focused on drawing those suns and making positive progress. All right. So you've seen what the practice routine looks like on paper. Now I'm going to show you what each of those circles represents. So, and the other thing I'll mention here is I've got this beautiful kick pedal pad from Tama that I just got. When I did this during 2025, I was not using the pedals. But basically what I would do is the first thing I would do is what I was playing at the beginning of the video. It's out of Gadaments, and it's flam paradiddles displace. So and then, you do it lefty, etc. So I would do that with the matched grip for 3 minutes. So that's the first circle. Then the second thing I would do is the same thing. I would do it with the traditional grip for 3 minutes. And I was doing that at about 84. I don't know. It's pretty close. So I would do that at 84. So then the next thing I would do also at 84, going back to match grip, and I'm going to play it slow, is I would do doubles and then what I call single-handed singles. So I'll play this very slow. So that's how that one goes. If I play it at 84, it's like 1, 2, ready, and. Like that. So then I would do the same thing, but with the traditional grip. So I would do that for, each of these for 3 minutes. So it's kind of a long duration exercise. So then the next thing I would do was at 50, get the old metronome down to 50. So this is really just focused on the traditional grip. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I would do 2s, right, in 50 for 3 minutes, just playing that simple thing. Then I would do triplets. 2, ready, and. Do that for 3 minutes. Then I will go to 4s. 2, ready, and. Then I would do 5s. Now, we'll see how this sounds, because I haven't played it in like a week or something. Yeah, let me do that again. 1, 2, ready, and. One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that. So then, after I did 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, like I just showed you, then I would do push-ups. And this I would also do for 3 minutes, but I would do it in 3 sets of 1 minute. And I would just sit there and do this exercise like this. So I would do 1 minute with my stopwatch. Then I might take a break. Then I do another minute, etc. So that's what I did, and I did it in the sand. And I'm going to later tell you exactly how much time I spent doing that. I'll put something up on the screen. I haven't done all the math. I think it's about 20 hours total that I spent, 20 continuous hours. So almost a continuous day. And when I did stick control, it was 5 continuous days going through the whole book. So I did about a fifth of stick control, but I also did that while working on an album and getting a band with a new lineup up and rebooted and performing again. So we had a lot of stuff going on in music, and actually there was a ton of stuff going on at work and with my family as well. So I was able to get all that stuff done, and now I feel a lot better about my traditional grip. I've got my little jazzette set in the back, and when I play there, I play jazz stuff, and I sort of as a rule on that set, most of the time I'm playing my traditional grip, and I feel better about my traditional grip. And I've done that as a little sand thing. Sometimes I missed a week, but it didn't bother me. I would come back and I would keep making tick marks when time became available to do that. So that's the practice routine. If you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate all the people who watch and like and subscribe to these videos. And I'm going to go out this year in 2026. I'm going to focus on another book. It's going to be focused, I think it's going to be more towards a big rock and less towards sand or pebbles. But we'll see how it goes with the whole Murphy and the Agile backlog. But I'm going to work on the book Bass Drum Control. And I've just been sort of getting started on the first page, and I'll leave the video with a couple exercises from the first page. So thank you very, very much for watching. And here I'll just go out on, I'm going to play quarter notes, then sixteenths, and then quarter notes, and then triplets on the bass drum. And this is with this new pad here. So I messed that up. Let me do it again.